Hello, and welcome to another virtual lesson. Today we're going to be talking about the concept of form following function. What does that mean? Before we figure that out, we have to understand exactly what I mean when I say form and when I say function. So when I say the form of something, or form, I'm talking about something visual, something tactile, something you can see, something shape, its size, its color, the material that it's made out of. Those are all forms. When I say function, I mean what is its purpose? What has it been designed to do, or what is it capable of doing? So then we have the idea of form following function. The form of something comes after its function, because you don't like invent something and go, oh, look, what can I do with this? It's the other way around. You say, I need something that can do this, or I need something that can do this better, or I need to improve on that. You take that idea, that function, and you develop a form for it. You create something to meet that goal. And it could be a wide variety of things. I'm going to take you through a series of different objects, common everyday objects and some unknown to you. And we're going to talk about how their form follows their function. A lot of this is kind of like natural, and you think, oh, well, of course it's that way, obviously. But why? Why was that design choice made? Everything we're going to see was specifically and purposefully chosen by someone to be a part of that in that way for some reason, because video game controllers don't grow on trees. We made this. We designed every aspect of it, from its color to its size to its shape. So why did we make those decisions, or the ones that were made? Let's have a look here. So we're going to have a closer look at a gaming controller here. Now, obviously, its most basic function is it needs to interact with some gaming device. And to do that, it has buttons. It has buttons. There we go. We've pushed our buttons. And that's how it interacts. That's its primary function. And so form, it has buttons to do that. We can go back to old school retro gaming here, and this controller has the same function. And the form that meets that function to control a game, it has buttons. There we go. You got some buttons. But these are very different pieces of technology in front of us here. They're very different. Lots of things are unique about them. Now, what's similar? They both have buttons. They're both made out of plastic. So form, made out of plastic. Function, it's cheap. It's easy to work with. It's very malleable. It's plentiful. It makes the device light. You can make them out of aluminum if you want. And I think some Pro controllers are, but it's much, much more expensive to work with aluminum, right? It'll be stronger, which is a plus, but it also will conduct heat a lot better. So the battery will heat the whole thing up a whole lot more. Let's do a couple other comparisons. Take a look at this one. Look at how nicely this fits in your hand. And as far as I am concerned, that's where Xbox kind of wins over PlayStation, is their controller design. I find this to be a lot more ergonomic as it fits here. And also the placement of the buttons, right? Like compare this, we have, just a couple buttons here where you kind of mash them around here. Easy to hit, but, when the games became more complex, we needed to change the function of this. So what forms did they add? They added more buttons. Where did they put the buttons? Where natural places where your hands fall. Now, this is not a proprietary PlayStation controller, but form, logo, function tells you what it's for. Form, name, function tells you the brand. So this, it sits nicely under the fingers. We can hit all of those, and even look at the back here. So underneath, as you're playing, your fingers can hit there. So the form follows the function quite well. But there are other things too. Look at the improvements here. This has a cable. Form, cable. Function, connect to the gaming device. This is wireless, right? So we have wireless communications in there to do that. So form, wireless communications, function, less cables, easier to use. You can sit anywhere you want in the room to do it. So that's some great benefits to that. There's lots of others too. One thing that you may not think of even is the shapes here, or a lot of controllers, the buttons will be colored. Why are there shapes? What function does that form serve? It didn't just happen there naturally. Someone made that choice and made that decision. Well, so you can see at a glance, right? Just out of the corner of your eye, you can kind of look down and say, oh, that one's red, oh, that one's square, whatever it might be that you need to hit it. So that makes it a whole lot easier, a whole lot faster to play. So this is a pretty basic way, some basic introductions. This is a very common item that I'm sure you're familiar with. Let's move now to an item you might not be familiar with. I have this item here. Seems to be some sort of plastic bowl, but interestingly enough, look at this. When I move that plastic bowl around, it seems to like it has like a gyroscope in there. Huh. Well, form, it's a bowl. Function, you put things in the bowl. Okay, cool. Well, bowls aren't a brand new invention, but look at this. Form, it's in a gyroscope. Function prevents you from spilling easily. This is called a gyro bowl. It's a bowl for toddlers who, aren't so coordinated, right? It's not perfect, but it helps you keep your Cheerios and your goldfish in the bowl instead of on the floor. Now let's take a look at some of the other ways its form follows its function here. So we have the bowl. We look at the bottom here. If we notice, it has big handles. Form, big handles. Function, easy to hold, right? Babies can kind of grab it anywhere and get a good grip on there. Form, made of plastic, right? We could have easily made this out of wood or metal, but it'd be too heavy. You get bonked on the head with this, it's not going to be half bad. So it's lighter, it's cheaper, and it's really easy to work with. Imagine the heat energy you have to use to melt like a metal version of this, right? Plastic, way easier to use. Form, we have the name on it there. Function tells you who made it, good advertising. Form, feet. Function allows it to stand up. And even you can kind of like tilt it on its side too, and it kind of stands up there. So pretty neat. Now form, brightly colored. That's a form. Someone chose those colors. Someone chose not to make this black and white or plaid, right? Function, bright and appealing to children, right? It's a brightly colored kid's toy. Now this is the one I like. Take a look at this. Form, there are holes in the bottom. Now, I guarantee you, in the first version of the gyro bowl, they did not have these holes in the bottom. Well, what function do these holes serve? A lot of times when they ask students, they would guess, well, it like keeps things fresh or aerates it if you have some hot food in there. Don't give babies hot food. 12-year-olds make terrible parents. And this is, I'm sure after the first bit of testing, they added them because if you go to wash this, you can wash, good. But how do you like dry it? You can't like shake it out there. Water would pool in the bottom and get moldy and stuff. This allows it to drip dry. So I think this was a form that was added to meet a function they didn't initially anticipate when they were designing this. So it's pretty neat there. Okay, let's get to some scientific materials. This may seem very simple here, but we just have like a little plastic squeeze bottle. So we have some of the real easy, basic stuff. Form, made of plastic, cheap, easy to work with, and squeezable here. This isn't as hard of a plastic because we got to squeeze it if we want to like pour things in there and get the samples. Let's take a look here. Form, it has a name on it, safety information, function, tell you what it is. Form, it's kind of translucent here, so that will allow you to, the function of that lets you know how much is in there. Lots of stuff there, but here's my favorite one about this. Here's my real favorite one. If you notice, let me go back to this camera. If you notice, around the top, there is a ridged area here, and it's rough at the top. Well, it's rough at the top here too, but why would it have two areas of roughness? It's all smooth. Well, you got to open it up, right? Chances are, if you're working with ethanol, you're probably wearing protective gear. You have gloves or something like that on. So when you go to open it, your hands would slip. That's why they have kind of like little ridges, a little area there so you can grip it to open it. So it's a very handy, a very small, simple thing that you might not even notice, you might not even realize when you go to use it, but it's kind of cool. Now let's go to a totally kind of unknown item here. This one is often a mystery item that I show to kids here. So, we have a small little brown plastic thing here. What function could this possibly serve? Well, let's see if the forms of it will give us clues to the function. Well, first off, this is pretty recognizable. It has a keychain on it here. So it's meant to be on your keys, right? So it's probably not meant to be used in the house. Wherever this is meant to use is meant to be used when you're not at home. Okay, there's little divots with little lines here, so that's giving you grips. So we must be meant to hold it like this in some way. Okay, so form, divot, function gives you grip. Now, form, there seems to be a lip up there. Not sure what function that serves. And, oh wait, there's arrows directing. This one says push firmly. Huh. So it's meant to push something. And it's made out of plastic. We know why that function is. The form, but why did they choose brown, I wonder? And why did they choose this shape? So it fits in your pocket easier? Maybe that's the function of it. Now, it does have the name rim roller on it. Rim roller. Well, as a Canadian here, there was a very famous coffee contest called Roll Up the Rim to Win, where you would roll up your coffee cup rim. Coffee cup. This is kind of shaped like a coffee cup, and brown, dark brown, just like coffee. It goes in your keychain when you go out and get a coffee. It helps you roll up the rim. See, it's curved, so you can put it on the edge of your coffee cup and push up to roll it up. And it helps you to roll up the rim of your coffee cup. So now, the question I always ask is, do we need something to fill that function? Like, do we really need a device to attach to our keys to help us to roll up the rim of our coffee cup? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if this was a very successful product. I bought this for, I think, $0.25 out of a bin of about 1,000 of them. So I'm willing to guess it wasn't the most successful product of all time, but very, very neat. And it lends itself very well to the idea of identifying an object's function based on its form, because when I show this to students regularly, they have no idea. So these were several objects to show you how form follows function. The shape of something meets its purpose, right? And remember, when we say form, it's visual things we can see, feel. When we talk about function, we talk about what it can do in general. Now let's have a look at some other objects where form doesn't follow function. Okay, let's have a look at these. So I have a series of useless objects for you here. And we're starting off here with a chair. Well, this chair, the function of a chair is for you to sit on. This type of chair makes it very difficult and very uncomfortable to do. So just by simply making the seat of the chair like that, you totally eliminate its prime functionality. You could still kind of sit on it, but like it's not comfortable. Yeah, that's not a good one. This one's pretty neat here. This one you kind of have to think about a little bit. Like if you think about a fork, think about going to eat a salad with that fork. Think about trying to eat cherry tomatoes with that fork, right? The little prongs or tines, as they're technically called, they're too long. They'll squish anything. They won't pierce it to pick it up, right? But fork form made out of metal. Function makes it strong. Right? It has a long form, has a long handle. Function allows you to hold it. You know, a fork with a stubby handle isn't going to be as easy to use there. So just by making it thick, though, it's eliminated its primary function. Here's another fork. I love this one. I call this the fork for ninjas, because like imagine trying to like stab a potato with that. But unless you're ninja, you can just like swing it and like just jam it in there. It's kind of your nunchuck fork. But without a solid arm on it, it's not going to work. You're not going to be able to get the force behind it. So its primary function is eliminated by simply changing the form of its handle. This is a great one. You can very easily understand how this would not function well, because the whole purpose of this is to water your garden or whatever it may be. But if this is going to just flow back into itself when you tip it over, it's not very functional though, right? But look, form, it's larger, carries more water, but you don't want to make it too large or it'd be too heavy. You don't want to make it too small or be running back to the tap all the time. So you have to kind of figure out exactly how much a person can kind of carry in one hand or supported by another. Form made out of plastic, lightweight, easy to work with, blah, 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 blah. And look at this form up at the top here. It has a kind of a spout with all sorts of little nozzles. Imagine if it was like a teapot. It just pour out too much. This is to almost simulate rain. Many of its forms meet its proper function, but you kink the neck in the wrong direction, you got a problem. These are fun too. So we have some boots. Good, look, form. It's a nice waterproof part. And oh, yeah, okay. So that completely negates the function of them just by cutting out the toes. So look at that. Just a simple action like that, cutting out the toes. It's a useless object now. The whole purpose, the whole primary function of these boots is to keep your feet dry. That eliminates it. Oh, this is great. Oh boy, for this is a little hard to identify. Some students aren't always too sure. This is a plate. So can you imagine eating spaghetti off of a hairy plate? My question here is though, do you use like dish soap or shampoo to clean it? But yeah, it would not be enjoyable to eat anything off of this plate. That would not be good at all. You have hair in your mouth all the time, which is not a great function. This is great. So, wait, we'll go back here. The primary function of the umbrella here is still met. You could still go underneath this and stay dry, but it's too heavy to hold. You couldn't hold it up. And let's even just say this arm did resist breaking. You couldn't hold it up for very long. So yes, an umbrella's function is to protect you from the rain. Its form needs to be some sort of canopy. But that form also needs to be light enough for you to hold up for an extended period of time. So even though its primary function is still in place, the fact that they decided to make it out of concrete instead of like a frame and shell structure has rendered it pretty useless. The key is one of my favorites here because you have to think about it a little bit. Yes, so instead of having a flat head, it's kind of turned on its side, and sure, you can still slide it in, but how are you going to turn it? That head allows you to get leverage, to put a little torsion on there to turn that key. So the form of a flat head against it kind of ruins its function. And also, imagine a pocket full of these things on a keychain. Not so good. Imagine lifting this hot boiling water off the stove. What's the problem? It's got two handles. You grab by two handles, but it's not balanced, right? Pots have handles on two sides. So form, handle on two sides. Function, you want it to be balanced. To get that, you put the handles on opposing sides to balance it. Simply by shifting the handle from one side to the other, you've rendered this pot useless, right? You can't lift it. It would spill. And finally, this is pretty, self-explanatory, whatnot. You got to pick up your glass, right? You got to pick up your cup. If you make it all spiky, it's not going to do so well. So, those are some quick examples of how form can follow function here. And remember, the form, the shape of something always comes after you've decided on a function. That doesn't mean you can't realize, oh, we can also use this tool for this, or this also works very well for this. You can add additional functions to it, and not so you have to narrow things in either. But the key is, form is the shape of something, what it looks like, it's visual. You can see form. Function is what it does. Function comes first, you decide on a purpose, and then you develop a form to meet that purpose. And that is how form follows function.